Well, welcome on in, everyone, to another edition of Navigating Trump 2.0. This, of course, is the show that takes a look at everything that happened this week in Washington, D.C. through the lens of the second Trump administration. Joining me again, David Brody, CBN Chief News Political Analyst. Did I say CBN Chief News Political Analyst?
Whatever.
Did I say that?
You call me. Listen, I've been called worse. Don't worry about it.
CBN News Chief Political Analyst David Brody and Dan Andros, host of the Quick Start podcast. Gentlemen, it's week 3 of the Jeffrey Epstein saga here in the nation's capital, and it is showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, even ramping up as we talk to each other here on Friday. Justice Department officials once again meeting with Jeffrey Epstein co-conspirator Ghislaine Maxwell to ascertain what she knows about the Jeffrey Epstein pedophile ring that they were both imprisoned for. The Wall Street Journal this week reported that Donald Trump's name is listed on a number of occasions in the so-called Epstein Files, and that he was told in May that his name appeared in some of those documents. Meanwhile, some Trump supporters continue to call for the Epstein Files to be released in full. So, David, as we sit here now at the end of week 3 of this growing controversy for the president, overshadowing what I think most observers and most of his voters would agree has been a very good first 6 months for the president. He's fulfilled a lot of the things that he said he wanted to do, the promises that he made on the campaign trail. The White House reportedly very angry, very upset that this Epstein thing has taken off like wildfire here. What are you hearing?
I'm taking a deep breath on all of this. I mean, last time we talked, it was a debacle in a 24 font, and now it's increased to a 48 font. It just keeps getting worse and worse, and it's the administration's own doing. I mean, think about this for a second. This for years, literally for years, this was the MAGA go-to line. It was President Trump, at the time Donald Trump, for 4 years from 2020 to 2024, talking about this. It was Kash Patel. It was, just Pam Bondi, all of them when they were out of office. Now here they are. And it's like, wait a minute, we're getting transparency on everything else, but really not this. And so it's their, listen, guys, I got to tell you, I'm shaking my head at this. This is an offensive, this Epstein situation has always been kind of I'm on offense on this. If you're part of the MAGA kind of Trump wing of the country, right? This was an offensive situation, like release the names, transparency against the deep state. How in the world, and maybe it's rhetorical that I'm asking this, how in the world did it get from that to now they're on the defense on this? Not only saying, hey, let's just move on, beyond all of that, just from a PR strategy, how in the world, we have Mike Johnson saying, we're going to come back in September and we're not going to take the votes now. And it's like they're running away with their tail between their legs. I mean, this is like PR 101 disaster. Where is the Pam Bondi press conference with Dan Bongino, with Kash Patel, with Todd Blanche at DOJ as well, all coming out and say, look, here's the deal, and explain, this is what we can release. This is what we can't release. This is why we're redacting stuff. This is what, is going on X, Y, and Z in terms of like why we can't do certain things, why we can't release certain things. There's been no real coherent explanation. Trump has said credible evidence, release it. But then, Bondi had said before that there was nothing to release. So they've been all over the place. So you need some sort of PR strategy. You need some sort of final kind of reckoning press conference to make this go away. And they haven't done it. As a matter of fact, today, just this morning, as President Trump left for Scotland, this is what he said to reporters before he left for Scotland. He said, quote, I've never gone to Epstein Island, he said. He goes, maybe you should focus on the former president of Harvard, some of the hedge fund guys. I'll give you a list. These guys live with Jeffrey, is what he said. Then on Ghislaine Maxwell said, people should really focus on how well the country is doing. And he goes, I have nothing to do with the guy, and on and on and on and on. So look, I don't know. I guess I'm out of analysis. That's it. I'm out of analysis. I'm done. I'm on 1%. Hold on. Let me recharge.
Well, Dan, while David recharges, just your thoughts on where things stand right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is, they've kind of stepped in it essentially. I think we're at a point, John and David, where it almost doesn't matter what actually happened. I think people's minds are made up on this. And
right.
So there's just like no winning here. I don't see any scenario where there's a win because they can present anything they want. And if there's nothing exactly like what people thought, if there's no big list with blackmail and all these people in government high places being blackmailed by Epstein, if it's anything short of that with big names and everything else of who did what, they're not going to believe it at this point. And I think this is sort of the problem when you get into the way media is structured today, where you have to be the loudest, you have to be the boldest, you have to be, say, the furthest thing on the edge to get any attention, to get any clicks, to get any revenue from traffic online and in social media. It's just the nature of the beast now. And so, like David was saying, they spent all this time saying, "Oh, this is it. This, and we're gonna show it," because the assumption was there were these damaging names. Now, again, like we talked about last time I was on with you guys about this list, there's only a couple of options now. Either there's no big names on the list, and this guy was just a dirtbag, trafficking women for sex, and there were no big celebrity names on there, and he was just sort of using the influence he had to get pictures with people, and that's all it is. And if that's all it is, then now what do you do with that? There's nothing there. Or they're on the list and it's really bad for them and it's mutually assured destruction and everyone's going to go down with the ship. Or they're just completely lying about all. I mean, there's just only a couple options here, and none of them are going to satisfy, I think, the mob on this.
But let me just say one thing about the PR strategy here. There are two outstanding questions, as in we don't have answers to. Not like hey, those were great questions. But there are two outstanding questions here. First of all, we understand that Trump's name is in the Epstein files. Even the administration pretty much admitting that. Senior administration officials say that's true. That type of thing. Okay, so how about where is the press conference? Are you going to let people's imagination run wild? Because
Right.
when you hear someone's name is in the Epstein files, let's be honest, people have busy lives. They're not thinking, well, I wonder if that means, They're just thinking, oh, snap, Trump's in the Epstein files. And that's it. And that means something nefarious and bad. Well, if it's not nefarious and bad, and I'm not suggesting it is, but if it's not nefarious and bad, come out and say it and explain what it is. They're not doing that. So that's one problem. And I would say I wanted to say what the other problem was, but then again, I'm older, so it has evaporated and gone away from my head at this point. But
that's a great point, John. I just wanted to double down on that. I think that's a great point. I mean, you have to, because what does that mean? What is Epstein? My name's in the Epstein files. What does that even mean? I mean, this guy was, had a lot of influence for whatever reason. We don't fully know. I mean, everyone has their theories on here, but the evidence, like, we don't know that he was blackmailing all this stuff. But he knew a lot of people.
Right.
So what does that mean? He had your number, and did that make you a pedophile? Like, no. So you're right. Well, you've got to explain this.
And let me just, it came back to me. I'm back. I'm back. And I just, hopefully I'll not forget right now. But here's the thing. And it's a discussion I'm curious to get your guys' take on, obviously. So they being kind of MAGA said, release the files, all of them. Okay, so let me get this straight. So are we saying, and I'm not saying yes or no to this, I'm just curious to get your opinion. Are you saying that if we're going to release the files, we're going to release all of the files and all of the names of people that are in the files, even if they didn't do anything wrong? So, for example, Trump is at a party with Epstein. He's walking down the stairs and Trump's name is just there. Democrats, Republicans. In other words, no nefarious conduct at all, but they are in the files. Are we okay with having those names out there? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question to discuss. Should those names even be out there, because they haven't done anything wrong, but they are mentioned in the Epstein files, because that is kind of code, sadly, for, oh, what were you doing at an Epstein party?
You were on the island, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, not even on the island. It could just be like just some party that Epstein had. And so then all of a sudden, like, for example, just make it personal, right? You, me, the three of us, Navigating 2.0 has decided to go to an Epstein party in 1990, whatever. And our name, I know, and to confirm, none of us have done that. I'm sorry. Let me go on the record with that. But let's just say our names were in there. Would we want our names out there like that? I mean, even though we have nothing to hide, we still would be like, listen, once that comes out, then people are going to think there's something wrong. Well, we didn't know the guy was a sex trafficker. I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
where do you draw the line here? And so my point of simply saying that is, have Bondi and all these people come out and talk about that and say, listen, we're not going to release these files because these are people that we have no idea if they did anything wrong. And there's no reason to put their names out there if we have no evidence that they did anything wrong. So, but they're not even saying that, is my point.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
I was going to say, I think that's been hinted at in some circles by the White House, but they've done an awful, like you said, the PR aspect of this, they've done an awful job trying to explain it, because when the president starts talking about it, he's clearly angry about this.
Yes.
I mean, I don't like to put emotions into the mouths of members of Congress, but you can. He's angry about this. And so when he starts talking about it, it's a visceral reaction from him where he's not able to stay on the talking points maybe that they would have discussed previously. He speaks extemporaneously and he gets emotional about it. And I think that's where some of the trouble lies here. And I think one of the things that I learned in the short time that I worked in a public information office for a police department was, when you look like you're not being fully transparent, you have the appearance of hiding something, or that you don't want the public to know something. Whether that's the case or not, you own the story. Own the story yourselves. Don't leak things here. Don't leak things there. Don't try to do this and do that someplace else. Own the story. Tell the people what's going on. Be as forthright as you can. Exactly like you're saying, David. If there's stuff we can't release, then you say there's stuff we can't release, and here's why. Yeah. But you have the president, the attorney general, the FBI director, everybody standing at a podium answering questions about this until it dies. Because right now, all they're doing is feeding it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And especially on this story. This story in particular is one you can't be like, we just, we're gonna just sort of scoot on by on this one. Like, this is the thing, like you were saying, David, that they champion this thing. Like,
Trump's base won't let it go away. That's right. The thing. But they won't let it go away.
And they won't, because they're the ones, including Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and a whole lot of Dan Bongino and a whole lot of other conservatives. They set the bar here. This list, these damaging names, this is, we've got to get this Epstein list. It's priority number one. And then you come in and you're like, that's just nothing to see here, guys. It's such a disconnect that you have to fill in gaps. You just have to do it.
And here's the thing. Here's where people go wrong. And when I say people, I'm talking about some people in the Trump administration and folks that maybe don't analyze this correctly. What people don't need to understand, this is just not like kind of a thing, right? This isn't just like the Epstein Files, okay, and then there's the big beautiful bill, and then there's this and that, and it's not that. This is literally the intersection of everything MAGA has been about. The global elites, the deep state, the sex trafficking stuff in terms of the moral quotient of it, all of, we don't trust government. I can go down the list. There's like 5, 6, 7 arrows all pointing, and it's cloaked in Epstein Files. But don't miss the point that this is not about the Epstein Files. It's just not. That's the proxy that we're dealing with here. What this is about is MAGA. It's the essential core of MAGA, that they have a distrust of the federal government, that deep state's at play, that the global elites are running things, and that they've been getting away with things for decades and decades. And that's what this is about. And that's why it won't go away, because it's not just one thorny issue, as President Trump likes to say. It's not that. And I really think that's important for people to understand why this isn't going away.
Well, in that vein, that kind of leads me into the next area I wanted to talk about, because I personally think these two things are related. And I'll point to a Gallup poll that came out on Friday that I think speaks volumes as to why the Trump administration may be doing what they're doing. 6 months into his second term of an administration that I think everyone would admit that, even if you don't like President Trump and what he's doing, he is fulfilling the promises that he said he was going to make. They've gotten a lot of accomplished in these first 6 months. His approval rating down to 37%, according to the latest Gallup poll. That's the lowest of his term, slightly higher than his all-time worst rating of 34% at the end of his first term. His rating has fallen 10 percentage points among U.S. adults since he began his second term back in January, including a 17-point decline among independents to 29%. dissent. So that takes us into the Tulsi Gabbard accusations against former President Obama this week, in which she declassified a House intelligence report on the 2016 presidential election that she and the president say directly implicates President Obama in his attempts to direct the intelligence community to convince the American people of the Trump-Russia collusion. And Democrats clearly, David, believe that this is related to Epstein, that this is a way to try and divert attention from Epstein, and more specifically, to give Trump's base, who has been adamant about everything Epstein being related, to give them something else to chew on, to give them something else to focus on, to give them a Democrat to focus their attention on. What say you to those accusations?
Hogwash. Do I think that this might have been sped up a little bit in the news cycle? Sure, I'll give you that. That's fine. But Tulsi Gabbard's been working on this for a long time. This is her singular mission. We knew this was coming. When I say this, we didn't know this specifically was coming, but we knew that she was going to declassify stuff, especially related to the Russia hoax. She talked about it. So this was coming. And once again, they were working on it. Would it have maybe waited another week or two? Yeah. Maybe they were like, hey, can we get this like pronto to change the conversation a little bit? Sure. I think there's politics involved. Of course, there always is. But that doesn't take away from the merits of what she's saying. And when I say the merits, let's be clear. We're not talking about analysis or Tulsi Gabbard's opinion on things. Put her opinion aside. We have declassified briefings. We have the actual receipts. Make what you want. If you're far left, you're going to feel one way. If you're far right, if you will, or if you're MAGA, you're going to feel a different way. So everybody's going to come to their own conclusion. But this idea that Tulsi Gabbard is kind of spinning stuff. No, she's not spinning it. I mean, she's spinning in the sense that she has her own take on it. But what should not get lost here is there are declassified documents that I've looked at. I'm assuming you guys have looked at them. And if you look specifically at them, and I won't go through all of this, but let me just simply say this. Part of the problem here, back to PR strategy, is that while Tulsi Gabbard has done a good job in kind of trying to go through all of the stuff that they declassified, it's too much. You know, there's too many acronyms. There's too much gobbledygook in terms of government stuff. It's too much. This is what happened, then that happened, then this happened, then that happened. Really, this comes down to 2 days, December 8th and 9th, right? Because let me just kind of sum it up as what they're saying here is that on December 8th, literally before December 8th, they had all this intelligence that said, no, Russia didn't manipulate the election at all in terms of the vote count and all that type of stuff. They didn't do that at all. And then on December 8th, all of a sudden, there are memos now that we see from the Obama administration saying, actually, you know what, hold up. I'm paraphrasing. Hold up for a second. Let's not go with that intelligence that was going to be prepared for the president's daily briefing the next day, December 9th. Let's hold up on, they say this on December 8th. They go, you know what? We've got some quote, here's the quote, new guidance. And so then the next day they have this meeting in the Situation Room with President Obama and his senior cabinet official or senior administration officials. And then all of a sudden there was a directive per the president's request that he is tasking, that's the word, POTUS tasking his administration to come up with a full Russia intelligence situation as to what exactly happened, and actually say how it actually happened. So here's the point. You had December 8th, nothing's going on. Russia, maybe tampered at the edges, but there was no manipulation of votes. And then all of a sudden, there's new guidance and Obama wants something different. That's the story, guys. December 8th, December 9th. What happened on December 8th, 2016, to all of a sudden put the kibosh on that intelligence that was going to be in his daily briefing, and then all of a sudden, a new report comes out in January of 2017 that has totally different information that said, Trump actually, they wanted Trump to win and all that. That was not in any of the intelligence beforehand. So something changed. That's the point. But I don't know if they're making that great of a case on that. But
yeah, I mean, I think, Dan, it's certainly, if true, a bombshell accusation. But there's a lot of gaps that need to be filled in to the narrative there. To go to the place where Donald Trump accused a former president of treason, which is of course a penalty punishable by death here in the United States for anyone who's accused of treason against the United States. So again, hyperbole there perhaps, but Is as far as where you sit, how much there is there on this story?
Well, I mean, I think reasonable people can look and like Dave was saying, sort of draw conclusions on the evidence that we're seeing. And at this point, you don't put it past any party to run a game like this when it comes to creating a narrative and creating something of this effect. And I think most people on the right, most conservatives already are there on Russiagate and kind of already believe that. And so where I think matters here is they've sort of heard this before, right? Like I think Marjorie Taylor Greene and some others kind of alluded to this much. They have heard these allegations. They've already believed these allegations. And until, because Trump was saying, like, we need to start going after people now, right? This is kind of what the MAGA movement was saying, is they want to actually start doing what the left has done to them with, throwing the book at them and getting indictments, all these things. And I think unless MAGA sees actual indictments and actionable proof and evidence that can lead to indictments and things of that nature, for, whether it's Obama or, I highly doubt that, but, people in the administration that were maybe more closely to the things going on, until they see that, I just don't know that it's going to move the needle. I think that, they're going, like David was saying, the timing on this, all of those things together, they're frustrated about the Epstein thing. And so to hear this, they already believe this. They already believe that Democrats sort of concocted this narrative. So unless there's some other movement towards action on the, physical action on indictments or whatever, I don't know that it's going to help.
Well, and Dan, you make such a great point, because this has an Epstein-esque ring to it, right? I mean, the Trump administration is leaving themselves very vulnerable here to once again have a MAGA revolt to say, wait a minute, hold on. You just said this was seditious conspiracy, treasonous conspiracy, X, Y, and Z. You referred it for criminal prosecution to the DOJ, and then nothing happens. I mean, there better be something that happens, according to MAGA, just like Epstein, right? You better follow through on what you're, all this tough talk. Where are the perp walks? Where are the arrests? Where's Brennan? They want to see Brennan in handcuffs. They want to see Comey in anyhow. The point is that it's a danger zone for the administration here, because once Tulsi Gabbard came out and said all of this, there has to be follow through. My guess is there'll be a special counsel. This will be punted for about 6 months to a year, and we'll see what happens at that point.
I also would add that I think the timing of it, if there is legitimacy to this story, the timing of it gives it the appearance that it's being done to divert attention away from the Epstein situation. So David, like you said, if Tulsi Gabbard has been working on this for a long time, that certainly is true. And I think you're right. At the very least, they moved it. They might have moved the timeline forward in order to kind of take some attention away from Epstein. But it would give the appearance then that I think it lessens the effect of the report, the fact that they're doing it right now, because it makes it appear to regular people, oh, he's just trying to divert attention, and maybe takes away some of the very possible actual things that might have happened in the Obama administration. Does it not?
Well, yeah. Let me just quickly push back a little bit on what you said. You said if there is legitimacy. Why wouldn't there be legitimacy? Once again, this is not someone's opinion. These are declassified documents. Now, you can make with them what you want, but if there is legitimacy, we have the receipts. In other words, we have the documents. I'm not saying that you draw your own conclusion, but you use the word legitimacy. That makes it sound like this is some sort of stuff that the Obama administration is kind of peddling, and it's their narrative. Well, it might be their narrative, but it's coming from actual legitimate documents. So I think we need to be careful when we say if it's legitimate. What they're releasing is legitimate. I just want to be clear about that.
And I think for my clarity, the legitimacy that I'm referring to is the direct pointing the finger at President Obama directly. There's no smoking gun here where you can say clearly President Obama did this, President Obama did that.
Sure there are. There are two things. It says in the email, it says POTUS tasking those are the words. I'm quote. That's an actual quote. POTUS tasking is the word. to have this new intelligence report created. Absolutely. That's one. And the other one is per the president's request. So that implicates Obama. I'm not saying, I'm not getting into treason, sedition, and all the other, whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that if you're saying smoking gun, those are the two smoking gun quotes. They are.
Well, the only thing I would add is one of the things that was brought up in one of the White House briefings this week is that if these smoking guns are in fact there, and like you're saying, the reports indicate that they're there, does President Obama have immunity from these things? I mean, the Supreme Court just ruled in favor of President Trump that any actions taken while sitting as president, they're immune to federal prosecution, criminal prosecution. So there was, of course, the meme that the president posted of President Obama in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, and obviously that's something that would really never happen. But presidents have immunity from doing these types of things, do they not?
Are you talking to me? Are you talking to me?
Dan, what do you think?
Oh, I have an opinion, but go ahead, Dan. Sorry,
no, go ahead, David. That's all you. I thought that was directed at you, and I'm more eager to hear your response.
Sorry.
Than mine.
Well, my ego is taking over, and I will apologize to both of you for that. So I think the answer is whatever that date is. When did Obama leave office? January, I don't know, maybe it was the 20th, the 17th of 2017. I don't know when it was. Whatever that is, that's the delineation date. Anything he did before that, and these documents are before that, for sure. Raised a good question about that, right? I mean, you have a great point that nothing might be able to be done on that, for sure. Having said that, if there's a special counsel appointed and we find out that after Obama left office and there were communications between X and X and X and X over this, because remember, it was all going on at the time for those first 2 years, then maybe that is something that they can look at and then tie it into something that happened as related evidence before Obama left office. But yeah, you make a good point.
All right, well, folks, I think that's going to end it for this week for Navigating Trump 2.0. We rolled up our sleeves and we got into the good stuff this week, but we will see what transpires over the next week.
I'm sorry. I hogged all the time.
And I get
paid by the minute. I get paid by the word, actually. So listen,
David, this is all about content. This is content, baby.
I feel bad.
That's what we're doing.
Womp, womp.
Don't feel bad.
All right.
Well, we'll just leave it there and let the people ruminate on things until we meet together next week for another edition of Navigating Trump 2.0. David, Dan, thanks for your time again, as always.
All right, John.